We're here with 25,000 people in Singapore at Token2049. This is the largest crypto conference on earth. Joining me today are two of the co-founders of World Liberty Financial. This is the single biggest story in crypto. You've heard of them before. No one knows how to pronounce their token name. We'll talk about that today. But World Liberty is shaping the future of all finance, and it's supercharged by a stablecoin they released earlier this year called USD1. So we're going to dig into all the details, but we got to start, Don, with the vision.
Yeah.
So, you've had a fairly successful career before this.
Yeah.
With the Trump organization, with real estate. There might have been some politics at some point in time that you did previously.
Yes.
But then you decided to join forces and create World Liberty. Why?
Listen, we got involved, not because we were necessarily early adapters. I mean, we built buildings like this. We built hotels, resorts, golf courses, some of the finest in the world. But once we did get political, which we got quite political, that was shut down in an instant. I mean, we woke up one morning and had 300 bank accounts just eliminated. We couldn't make payroll. Not because we did anything wrong, not because there was anything there, but we realized very quickly how fragile the TradFi systems were. If they could shut down the Trump organization, a multi-billion-dollar organization that really reshaped the skyline, not just of New York, but of so many cities around the world, we said, wait, because they didn't like what we were saying. And what we realized was that the TradFi system was so broken, so undemocratized, that for so many years, we were just at the top of a Ponzi scheme, right? We could pick up the phone, we could call any banker in the world, we could get a loan for a project that we were working on. All of a sudden, when you went from the top of that pyramid to the bottom, you realize, wait a minute, there's nothing egalitarian about any of these systems. It's totally broken. And so what we did was we utilized our platform, our capital, partnered with long-term friends who really knew that space and got to know everyone. We said there has to be a better way to do this, not just for us, but for everyone. So we truly believe this is the future of finance. This is where it's all headed. And again, we got into it not because we were early adapters, but we got into it out of necessity because we saw how broken the traditional system was.
So that was the very beginning. And Zach, you also came from a real estate background, of course, and yet you joined forces with some crypto technical co-founders who have been in the scene for years to help build this platform. What were the early days of World Liberty like as you were kind of shaping the vision for what this would be?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the early days, they were interesting. I'd say nobody really believed in us in the beginning. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that on this very stage last year, there was actually a panel that included the old leadership of Aptos, Mo, it included Tarun, and they all sat up here and they called us a joke. They called us a meme coin. They said we would never amount to anything.
How are we doing now, folks?
There we go.
Pretty good.
I think we're happy to announce today that we just met the new leadership of Aptos, including Avery, and excited to announce that we will be bringing USD1 to Aptos, which will be the first time USD1 is on any movement chain. I think thank you. I think what impresses us the most when we look at USD1 is really the speed at which a vision became a reality. And what inspires me, what inspires Don every day, what inspires our co-founders, Chase and Zach, and our entire team, is seeing people use USD1 every day, seeing people participate in the governance, and that's just been amazing to watch.
It's the DeFi ecosystem has really taken off. And one statistic that I saw just yesterday was on Visa's website. So Visa, of course, is about as TradFi a company as it gets. I mean, they're fintechy too, but they're TradFi. Is that they're tracking that there's been about 45, this is a real number, $1 trillion in stablecoin transaction in the last 12 months. This is according to their on-chain tracker, 45 trillion. And then when they discount it for what they're calling kind of transaction for trading fee transactions, they bring it down to only $9 trillion. Most of this was before the recent Genius Act was passed by the U.S. government and signed into law by the president. USD1 is what's called a Genius compliant stablecoin. What does that mean, Zach?
Yeah, so USD1 is one-to-one backed by U.S. Treasuries. That's very important to us. And that should be very important, frankly, to anyone issuing a stablecoin. People using stablecoins, they also deserve trust and transparency. Our monthly audits are very important to us. So, when we talk about Genius compliance, we talk about, trust, transparency, audits, one-to-one backing. That's really what's involved in a Genius compliant stablecoin, among many other things that we could cover, but they would take about an hour and a half.
Well, so that means, though, that consumers and institutions and enterprises and even governments can trust USD1 because they know exactly what's backing it. Right. And now there's real rules in the United States. And Don, I've got to ask, with there being real rules in the US, do you think there's going to be more jobs in entrepreneurship in crypto coming to America?
Oh, I think without question. I mean, it was sort of amazing to watch what I believe, again, to be the future of finance. And to watch a government, prior to my father taking back over in January, literally do almost everything imaginable to take this incredible burgeoning industry and send it everywhere but America. I think what we've realized in watching the world, a strong America, a stable America, is a strong and stable world. America leads by example, and so we have to have that leadership in this industry. We can't force people to go places that they didn't want to do. And even when we started, this vision, year and a half ago, we're talking about this. We're having conversations, and we're with the biggest white shoe law firms in America. And we're saying, this is what we want to do. That looks great. Is it legal? We don't know.
Yeah,
we're not sure. And you saw the way the prior administration, really weaponized so much of their resources, weaponized the government against crypto, even guys that were doing it right, just because they could, because it meant that administration had less control. That political party had less power to be able to rule. We wanted to change that. And so my father was the first guy to run as sort of a pro-crypto president. He saw the need because, again, as someone who was a titan of industry, to be able to be turned off that quickly, he saw that there was a different way to do this. There was a fairer way to do this. And that should be led in America, not pushing people abroad. And so bringing that back to the United States, having people like David Sachs running crypto for the US government is just incredible opportunities. We're so used to, in America, the people who are making trillion-dollar decisions are not there because they actually know what they're talking about. They're there because they've been there longer.
Yeah.
I remember coming out of, I was a young kid coming out of Wharton in 2000, and the real estate boom's going crazy, and you had a dot-com boom going wild, and everything was going. And I remember when the world hit a wall, 07, 08, going 1,000 miles an hour, and you start watching the House and Senate committees talking about finance, and I'm like, you listen to the people who are making trillion-dollar decisions, and you realize in about 3 seconds, they're literally talking sound bites. They have no idea what they're actually talking about. Again, they're only there because they've been there longer, and it's a prestigious committee that has power. But they're making trillion-dollar decisions that they have no business making. I mean, these are people sort of like Joe Biden. If you showed up driving your Uber, you'd never get in the car. You'd certainly never let your kids get in that car. These were the people that were making decisions. He's laughing, but it's true, right? Yeah, 100%. These are people making decisions that they had no business making. And so to have people in this administration that actually understand what they're talking about when you talk about an industry of this size and scope is fundamentally important. And so that's going to set the regulatory framework that we're going to need to be able to have this industry grow across the board.
Yeah, because it's not just going to grow in America. Here we are, for example, in Singapore, which has been leading the way on policy and regulation for years. There's a lot of entrepreneurs here. And in speaking to them and working here, my company's had an office here since 2018. The region really cares about crypto. They care about innovation. But they would see the US as kind of an enemy to this industry until very recently. But now it looks like we've actually got competency in the office. But what does that mean for USD1? What does that mean for world liberty? Now that there are some rules out there, does it let you get creative?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're always looking to color within the rule book. But now that there's clear regulation, it allows us and every other corporation in crypto to have a clear set of rules to play by, right? And it allows us to be more efficient, to not just worry about the boogeyman every day for just operating a normal business that's above board. So there's no question that regulation is healthy for any industry. And frankly, it's what the crypto industry has been asking for years. All we've been saying is give us clear rules of the road to play by so we know how to operate. And thanks to the president and his amazing administration, now we have that.
Well, so let's change topics a little bit. The WLFI token is different than the USD1 stablecoin.
Yeah.
Can you explain to us kind of what the difference is between these things?
Yeah. So for the non-crypto native people here, USD1 is a stablecoin. It's a one-to-one backed stablecoin with U.S. Treasuries. It's what retail corporations, enterprise use as a means of payment, savings, etc. World Liberty Financial, WLFI, is our governance token, and it gives our ecosystem participants and token holders a say in the ecosystem in the direction of the platform. So you can think of USD1 as the money in our system and WLFI as the voice in our system.
And that voice is not nothing. I mean, I've got to say, I've received inquiries from certain media sources, mainstream media that may have a political axe to grind, who suddenly think that there's no value there. But I have to say, this is me speaking personally, that the WLFI token has already been used quite extensively. In fact, haven't there been some proposals on the network of material?
That's a great point, David. So we, for instance, we just passed a governance proposal recently to use all of the fees from DEXs of WLFI sales to buy back and burn the WLFI token. That's a really good example of the governance shaping our platform, and there's been several more as well. There'll continue to be more governance proposals. Anyone who owns a single WLFI token is entitled to make a governance proposal. It then goes through a period of review, and it gets voted on. And so we think that that's really how the future of corporations should work. Is in this decentralized manner where everyone gets a say in the direction of the ecosystem.
It's much more participatory. And Don, you've been helping build out this community. I think we see a lot of it on Twitter.
Yeah.
But we see a lot of it elsewhere. And the fans of USD1, I've got to say, I've never seen a community for a stablecoin before.
Yeah.
Stablecoin with culture.
It really is. I mean, it's almost like a stable coin that's sort of has the following of a meme coin. People really believe in the culture. And again, I think because of the history, because of the attacks on crypto, I think they saw what we were doing, talking about these things, creating this truly democratized platform where people get to vote on a daily basis on what's going on. They get to be a part of that decision-making process. They see that and they have full buy-in. They want to be a part of it. They're going to continue to be a part of it. And because of that, it's created almost a cult-like following that's probably never existed in the traditional stablecoin space. So we're really excited about it. I mean, I think we went out there on a limb early on saying we're going to support this community. The crypto community recognized that. They saw that. They understood that we got what was going on. Again, we weren't just talking in sound bites. It was sort of funny. I noticed when the other political campaigns in the last cycle started, yeah, we're going to support crypto too. I said, I'll give you as much money as I'll donate $100,000 a minute to listen to Kamala Harris talk about crypto because it would be one of the great word salads of all time. These guys understood that we were going to bat for the community, and they went to bat for us because of it. And it's sort of a great symbiotic relationship.
And indeed, USD1 is growing by leaps and bounds. I believe it's about $2.7 billion in circulating supply today, and growing all the time, Zach. Why do you think USD1 is so successful thus far?
Yeah, I mean, Don touched on it slightly. We do have a culture behind USD1. I think that's been instrumental for our growth. But we've also been really intentional about our partnerships, particularly here in Asia. We are absolute workhorses at USD1. The main reason for the success is probably our amazing team that's standing right over there. But yeah, we've just been really intentional about where we want to partner with people, the way we partner with people, and it's only the beginning. It's only going to get much stronger.
I think those partnerships are so important because again, it's not just about us. We want the entire ecosystem to grow together, and so working with some of these great groups, not just trying to do it on our own, but working with some of the great players in the space, people who've been there forever. you have the opportunity to touch all of these things. And again, the future is truly boundless because of that.
Yeah, I want to explore that a little bit, because some people might hear what Don just said and say, that sounds like a soundbite. Well, he is professionally good at saying sound bites, but it's not.
It's not. You could talk endlessly.
You have unlimited partnerships with some of the best companies in crypto that are technical in nature, where you've woven into each other and built this modular system.
100%. I mean, that's the idea. We want to take on the entire ecosystem that is TradFi. Even from Zach and I, with our history in real estate, I always talk about like title insurance, right? In New York City, you pay a point for title insurance, but it's literally mandated, it's stipulated already by the state that no one can compete for price. So you give it to the guy that takes you to the hockey game or the basketball game the night before, not because they're actually any better at the business. When we can create the efficiencies using blockchain technologies, all of these other aspects of, we can endless points on deals that are just basically thrown out into the ether, totally wasted. We can create a level of efficiency across the board here that's going to translate to value to the end users. There's so many opportunities, it's truly endless.
So this is much bigger than just crypto the way we know it today.
Correct.
Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, it's not just about the transacting. Remittances are going to be huge, the tokenization is going to be huge, but I mean, even taking on some of those traditional blocks, like why wouldn't title insurance be on the blockchain, where I can track what's been going on forever, rather than having to pay someone a point? When you look at TradFi, how many guys do I know that I graduated from Wharton with back in 2000 that, great guys, making 7 figures a year to push a piece of paper from one side of a desk to the other, adding absolutely no value, but taking these significant chunks, basically feeing people to death. It doesn't work. So I think we see a system where we can eliminate all of those inefficiencies. That translates back to real value for all of the people involved.
And further to Don's point, I think what's really interesting about our team, we obviously have the most incredible partners in Don, Eric, and his brother Baron. We also have Chase Hero and Zach Folkman, who I mentioned earlier, our co-founders. We've seen all of the problems, really. We've all been around a very long time. Don and his family particularly have seen all of the problems that exist in the traditional finance world. We've also seen all the problems that exist in crypto finance, right? And what we try to do as co-founders of this project is we try to think about the problems, and then we come up with the solutions to those problems. And so, I think the experience that, Don and his brothers bring to this, and just seeing every single problem that exists, whether it comes to debanking, deplatforming, et cetera, we take those problems and, we apply solutions to them.
And so I think that if an audience member is listening to what you're saying, Zach, quite closely, they may hear a future roadmap for World Liberty Financial. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean,
somewhere in there.
Yeah, somewhere in there, I guess you could say that.
So then maybe a little more specifically, one thing Don mentioned that I think is a really key point is tokenization. And that seems like something people are talking about a lot right now. There's been speculation on the internet that World Liberty is going to explore potentially other types of asset classes and tokenizing those. Have you thought about that? What can you tell the audience?
Yeah, we've not only thought about it, we're actively working on it. I think commodities are a really interesting area for us, whether it be oil, gas, even things like cotton, timber. All of those things, frankly, should be traded on chain. It's a lot more efficient. It's a lot more transparent. And they should all be paired with a reliable, transparent stablecoin, USD1. So whether it comes to, tokenizing some of these asset classes like real estate, oil and gas, et cetera, we're looking at actively tokenizing that ourselves. But we also want USD1 to be the base pair for these assets, because we view it as the most trustworthy and the most transparent and the most cultured stablecoin on earth.
Cultured stablecoin. Don, you come into business meetings all the time. You've helped sell billion-dollar buildings and then some. When you're talking about USD1 in a meeting, when you're behind the scenes, what are you telling people about it that's convincing them to say, yes, we want to use your technology?
It's interesting. I think they meet the team and they get it. These are guys that could be doing anything. These are guys that have been successful in this space for well over a decade. And they understand the great vision, I think, that the entire team has. Right? It's not just about us. It's not just about making money today. It's about a long-term vision to shape the future of this space, to create the efficiencies we've been talking about. They see that, and honestly, it almost sells itself. And again, I think that there is a component of the culture that we talked about. People get it. They see the following that we've been able to have by basically saying, hey, we're going to do, and we are doing all of the things we said we were going to do. There's an incredible loyalty amongst the people who've been in this space, who see what it is, who've been early players and new adapters. And the reality is, while some of the guys have been in it for a long time, I mean, I think we're just at the beginning of what's going to be an incredible upswing that's going to change the future.
And I think if I can just hop in there, David, I think what's really important, especially as we're meeting with enterprises and institutions, is the transparency and the trust. That is a key component when you're talking to the likes of Amazon, Apple, right, and trying to convince them to onboard to stablecoins. Some of our competitors, are very large, but they don't have monthly audits, right? Rather, monthly attestations and things like that. We believe that the trust and transparency is going to be critical when it comes to capturing the next wave of adoption.
And you've captured it very quickly, this trust. You've earned it, I should say. It's worth noting that this project didn't really exist a year and a half ago, or it was in its infancy, let me put it that way. But you've done extraordinary work so far. One of the other quote-unquote criticisms that we've seen is that people say, where's this, where's that from World Liberty? But maybe it's worth noting that you've delivered and delivered and delivered in a matter of, weeks.
Well, as Zach pointed out, I mean, it was a year ago on this very stage, they were making fun of what we're trying to do, and now we're the fastest growing stablecoin ever. I think we're doing pretty good, and as I said, we're going to deliver on the promises that we made. We're going to keep going. We have one of the greatest teams imaginable, and because we're not just trying to do it ourselves, to do it alone, but we're bringing in the other great minds of the space to collectively form, all of these, ideas, expand them, grow them. I think people understand and have a lot more faith and trust in what we're trying to do.
Yeah, to your point, World Liberty isn't a layer one. It's not an exchange. But you seem to partner with so many different players.
So we've been very intentional about that. World Liberty and USD1 are exchange agnostic and they're chain agnostic. And that was done very intentionally because we believe that, for this ecosystem to work, we all really need to band together, right? And I think what you see in the space a lot of the time is someone will create a stablecoin or some other product, and they want to vertically integrate the entire thing. They want to control everything from the chain to the exchange, and we don't believe that's the right way to do things at World Liberty. We think that rising tides lifts all ships, and we're also not arrogant to think that we can do it all by ourselves, right? It takes a village. And we're thrilled to work with our partners, and we're always reaching our hand out and saying, if you want to partner with us, come find us. We're open to partnerships.
And we appreciate the irony, and as a Witkoff and a Trump being on a stage talking about we're not that arrogant.
Yeah. Well, certainly not in crypto. Maybe in real estate, but that's not my business. So we've talked a little bit about some of the things that World Liberty is working on, but it was recently announced, your co-founder Zach Folkman announced in Korea that there might be a debit card coming. Is that true, Zach?
Yes, that's very much true. We are definitely rolling out a debit card that'll bridge, crypto assets with everyday spending. Again, excited to announce that we'll be rolling out a pilot program here in the next quarter, and that debit card will either be live Q4 or Q1 26.
This is news, ladies and gentlemen. That's news right here. And we've talked about the app, which we know is coming soon. Is that the most we can say for now?
Listen, I think we're not going to get ahead of our skis on that, but I think a huge focus of what we've been talking about and what we want to do is create the utility that's been sort of missing from crypto. I mean, if you were there early and you're figuring it out, I mean, it's complicated. We want to make sure it's accessible for everyone. This is the way everyone should be transacting in time. And so to create that utility, I mean, obviously the debit card's going to be a major aspect in that, but I think there's numerous other things that we're working on right now that we'll get to in time. We don't need to talk about it all, but I think everyone can imagine already for themselves what we're looking to do.
No question. I mean, the UI in crypto has always been complicated for even those of us who have been in the industry for 10 years or more. And it's one of those things, and it's interesting. I remember speaking once with you and Eric, and you guys are nerding out about staking and doing a lot of on-chain activities, but it's complicated, and I wonder how can someone benefit from DeFi that maybe isn't so native to the space?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think DeFi, once you sort of discover the powers of it, it's very addicting. Someone who's not native to the space, they can essentially become their own personal bank, right? In DeFi, you can lend out funds, you can earn yield, you can stake. So once people sort of discover that power isn't held by institutions, but that can actually be held by you personally in this DeFi environment, I think it's very addicting and very powerful, and I think DeFi is going to absolutely take over the world.
So Don,
we all think that at World Liberty.
That sounds quite empowering, and if I might say, liberating. Is that maybe why you called it World Liberty?
Well, yeah, I mean, we call it World Liberty because of the liberty aspect of it, but also because of the world aspect of it, right? This isn't just about America. We talk, we should be leading as America. We discussed already, the importance of a strong America and leading from that, but we want this to be for the world. We want people to be able to do that. We want the same opportunities that so many Americans have been able to benefit to be able to happen in other places where there isn't an established even TradFi system, where inflation can take care of, wipe out your paycheck in a couple of hours. So it's about creating a platform for the world to utilize and for them to partake in all of these things. Again, you bring it back to the tokenization aspect of it. If you're a Trump guy, who wouldn't want to own a piece of Mar-a-Lago? You know what I mean? If you can do that from a tokenized asset. If I can do it that way, why would I not want to do it that way with someone who's actually a believer in what we do than through a traditional bank? Again, the opportunities are just absolutely boundless.
It's just so much more participatory and democratic. So it really does feel like the name and what you're doing kind of are totally entwined, Zach. So we only have a few more minutes left, and I want to make sure that we have a chance to maybe meet some of your co-founders, if that's all right.
Yeah, I'd love to bring them up. I think we got Chase, Zach, and our CTO, Corey, here, if you guys want to join us. Let's give them a round of applause, everybody. This is the amazing team that's built the fastest growing stablecoin ecosystem on Earth.
So yes,
What's up, boys?
these gentlemen are up here. This is the World Liberty financial team, or at least a good chunk of them, that we've been proud to work with for more than a year now.
These are the guys that dress more like the crypto guys. When you first meet them, I was like, I don't understand. I'm used to the bankers in the three-piece suits, and yet you spend enough time with these guys, and all of a sudden you realize, they know so much more than some of these bankers that have just been caught up in these sort of rigmarole systems of just doing it the old way. We couldn't have picked a better group of guys. They're absolute workhorses, total geniuses. It's just been amazing.
Working 24/7. Thanks for coming up here, gents.
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, I just wanted to talk a little bit about politics.
Yeah.
World Liberty is not a political organization. Is that true?
It's 100% true. It's 100% true. I think it definitely benefits America. I think stablecoins, the nature of as countries have started saying, hey, we don't love dollar hegemony. We want to take that power that the United States have had away from them for so long. I mean, I think stablecoins are going to be the thing that backfills all of these countries that used to buy U.S. treasuries. We're going to do that, and that's going to create and maintain the dollar hegemony that's allowed America to lead, that's allowed us to have the power over the world, that has kept so many places safe, sound, and strong. And so while it's not at all political, I think it's going to greatly benefit the world as people have started seeing the threat that America perhaps poses to them. These are not exactly great places. These are not exactly countries that have the rest of the world's interest at heart. I think preserving that power of the dollar is a huge part of what stablecoins are going to be doing in the next,
I think Don nailed it. I mean, listen, dollarizing the world is, we view it as a patriotic mission, but it's also very good for the world. I'll also, say what Don wouldn't or can't say, which is no, we are not a political organization, but yes, of course we think President Trump is the greatest president to ever exist in the history of the world. As everyone in this room should probably think that as well. He has single-handedly saved the crypto industry from people who wanted to ruin it, and he's brought crypto back to its rightful home, the United States of America. So we love President Trump. We absolutely think that he is the best president to ever exist, but we've been very clear that World Liberty is not a political organization. We are a business.
And you're a business that, although you're not involved in any policy discussions, to be very clear, is benefiting the U.S. by, among other things, as a commercial company, purchasing U.S. treasuries for the long run.
That's right, purchasing U.S. treasuries and also exposing parts of the world that wouldn't otherwise be exposed to those U.S. treasuries, right? So we're really, we're flying to every single corner of this globe, convincing people to onboard to USD1, which, in effect, convinces those people to go buy U.S. treasuries and is great for the U.S. dollar, the world's greatest reserve currency.
So it's the demand side and the supply side as a private enterprise.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a fascinating niche that probably didn't really exist too many years ago that you're now filling. And you're doing this while also beginning to onboard totally new features that we're probably going to be seeing in the weeks and months ahead of when the WLFI app comes out, which of course we've been looking forward to, but only when it's fully baked.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, listen, like I said, we're very intentional at World Liberty, so we don't want to roll out some, sort of half-baked product. Yeah, when it's done, the world will see it. Don't want to give away any timelines on this stage, but what I can say is the final product is going to be one of the greatest wallets the world has ever seen.
I want to change topics a little bit and talk a little bit about the media, because we've certainly seen a lot about that. Don, you have a lot of experience with the media. You've been on TV umpteen times.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it does seem like the media, at least initially, didn't give you much of a fair shake. But now more and more people are talking about the technology you've built and the success you've had. What's your overall experience with the media?
I think my overall experience with the media has been, let's call it a disaster. I think we've seen, the bias there. I've certainly talked about that for, the last decade, because I've been there. I've been in the room and I see, the message that's been delivered. I think where we're starting to get a fair shake is that the media has discredited themselves so often and so much that the media, like finance, is shifting to alternate forms. More the independent journalism route, the podcast route, people who are talking long form, not just sort of delivering a soundbite for whatever the corporate powers that be would have them be doing. And so, the reality is, they've sort of become their own worst enemy, which started their own natural demise and allowed a void to be filled by other people who are willing to actually have a real conversation, who are willing to talk about the things that need to be said, not just run, again, with a narrative. And so while the experience hasn't been awesome because we were the targets of this for so long, it created the opportunity for other people to step in and fill that void. And there's a reason there's such distrust in the media across the world, certainly in the United States, where finally they were actually able to see the other side. It's sort of like how we got into crypto, frankly, right? We got into crypto because out of necessity. We were debanked, so we came up with a solution, but we had the same problem when it came to free speech in America, which is sort of the holy grail of, the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, freedom of speech. Well, we were deplatformed from that too. We were shut down. We were thrown off, every platform imaginable. You weren't able to even get on the mainstream media. So what did we do? We came up with a solution. We came up with Truth Social as a competitor to what was out there. And so, we have a long history of being, when we're attacked, we don't just sort of take our ball, go home, cry to mommy. We actually come up with real viable solutions that people see. And as the onslaught got worse and worse, and as the media got worse and worse, people truly saw the real bias that was out there. And they started actually paying attention to what was really going on. Once that happened, once you had that transparency, all of a sudden you saw a very seismic shift in the way that things were seen.
And we've seen a huge groundswell of community support. Between all of you, you have an enormous following. And Zach Witkoff, I want to ask, if people want to hear the straight truth about World Liberty, where should they go to find out the facts?
Yeah, I mean, if you want the straight truth, we're very accessible people. Maybe not Don as much as me and my co-founders, but
I'm here. I'm basically flying 50 hours to be on the ground here for about 18 hours. So I make myself available when possible.
That's for sure. But if you want the real truth of World Liberty, I'd say follow us on Twitter. Watch us on podcasts and hear it directly from us. The publications like the New York Times, I mean, these are the same publications that attacked our entire industry, right, for years and years. I think most of the people in this room, if we polled everyone in this room, I mean, and they read a New York Times article, most people are going to actually assume the opposite is true of what occurred in that article. I mean, how many people in this room really think that the New York Times is a trustworthy publication? Not many, it sounds like.
It's about
right?
what I thought it would be, 0.
So yeah, I would say if you want the real, truth on world liberty, you should always get it from one of us, the co-founders.
And if someone wants to learn more about the project, they should go to your website?
Yeah, go to worldlibertyfinancial.com. Feel free to give us a follow on X where we give frequent updates, and we're on podcasts, etc. frequently. So again, we're pretty accessible.
Well, excellent. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here, for talking about the future of the American economic hegemony, talking about the future of USD1, talking about the future of the WLFI token and the app and the platform, for giving us all your time today. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, David.
Appreciate it.
it.